Hey everyone, it's Debbie with doitlikedebbie.com, a lifestyle blog on helping you to do more and save more, and just a little corner of the internet where I like to share real life experiences and information. In this segment of my channel, I'm now branching out and talking about my immigration journey. My husband and I have filed for the I-130, which is the spousal petition to bring him over into the United States so we can live our lives together. Before I begin, I want to thank you all for being here, and if you could please like and subscribe below just so you can stay up to date on all the information that I have for my particular case, and then if you have any questions you can always comment below and ask, but I will be using this platform just to update on all things related to my case. So if you're on a similar journey, then we can be on this together. So today I'm going to be talking about the IOE receipt for electronic processing for the I-130. What is it? And is it going to be any faster for you and your significant other? Those were the exact questions that I had when I first sent off my I-130, and I got that IOE number and I was thinking, but I didn't file electronically. So don't worry, I'm going to demystify some of these questions that you have, and then we'll get into other data and information that I gathered through many hours on the internet that I'm willing to admit it. I'm willing to admit that I was on the internet for quite some time trying to get my answers. Okay, so if you're like me, you recently filed the I-130 petition for an alien relative, specifically to bring your spouse over to the United States, but this also works for the other immediate family members, like a unmarried child under 21. You also would file the I-130 in that case. But since I filed for my spouse, I will be just using the I-130 as the reference for my spousal petition, although anyone filing the I-130, this will apply to you. Before I get ahead of myself, the IOE receipt is indicating that your case will now be electronically processed. So even if you submitted hard copy to one of the lockboxes, depending on your state, you will get an IOE receipt number, or a receipt number that starts with IOE. And based off everything that I've seen online so far on like Visa Journey and some of the Facebook groups for immigration, I think around early spring of this year is when people started to get the IOE receipt numbers. Yeah, I think around like March, April is when everyone started to get it, and they were all still filing hard copy paper applications to their respective lockbox. There's also been many questions on the IOE receipt and if everyone with the IOE is a part of the pilot processing program. So the answer is unfortunately not. I think there was I don't know how many applicants that if you applied around the spring of this year, March, then some of those applications with the IOE receipt number, they got approved within a matter of 3 months. So by June of this past year, that's usually not the normal processing times. Right now, I think it's sitting at, depending on the service center, it's sitting at about 5 or 6 months if it's like a really good application that has all of the information that it needs. If you didn't apply in March 2019 with an IOE receipt number, chances are you're not a part of that pilot program. You're still going to be electronically processed, but also those people, I believe, had something where USCIS indicated that they are benefiting from a pilot program, and then those cases with the priority dates in March got approved in June with no expedite. So once again, your notice of action receipt, even if you have the IOE receipt number, it will have to have indicated that you are a part of the pilot program. Okay, circling back to sending off my I-130 application. It was right around the Thanksgiving holiday, so the holiday dates were a little bit funky, but I sent off the I-130. A few days later, I got a text notification with my IOE receipt number, and I was super excited. I took a screenshot just, to have it. And then a few days after that, so my receipt number, the IOE, I was like, oh, that's funny, because I looked it up and it said electronic processing, and I was thinking, because I didn't process electronically. But then a few days later, I got in the mail my notice of action 1. If you got a notice of action 1 either via text message, usually is how it's coming in first, and then a couple days later you'll get that snail mail, the hard copy mail from the post office. And actually the notice of action 1 is coming in 2 different envelopes now, and they're both considered the Notice of Action 1. So the Notice of Action 1 is the account access letter. And typically, like I said before, there's two Notice of Actions that come like kind of back to back. For me, it was like one day apart. It was like a Thursday and a Friday or something like that I received both letters. I wasn't even expecting the second one after I got the first. Since it was my account access letter, they give you, once again, your IOE receipt number. Then they give you an online account access code, so you'll plug that in and create your account online with myuscis.gov. Also really important on that notice of action letter, for that account access letter, that is the letter that you'll want to see anyways, because that will list on the bottom left hand corner your assigned service center. So basically everybody applies, files the I-130, it goes to the respective lockbox if you're still doing it hard copy filing, and then you will get the IOE receipt number, and that Notice of Action 1 that USCIS received your application will list your designated service center. So the text messages before that, they will not list your service center yet, so don't freak out. Just wait for that Notice of Action 1 letter to come in. Then that second Notice of Action letter, I kind of found it more informational at that point. It lists preference classification. So in my case, it says spouse of USC or spouse of US citizen. And it said received by office and is in process. And then it listed my husband's name as the beneficiary. So that just kind of gives you peace of mind that like, okay, everything was listed correctly and it's going to be going on to the next step of them being reviewed. So once again, it's really common to get both of those Notice of Action 1 letters separately, and they're both considered the Notice of Action 1. So if you're looking on visajourney.com or something and looking at people's timelines, it would both be considered the Notice of Action 1, and do not get it confused with Notice of Action 2, which is what you'll get when the I-130 actually gets approved, and that will be later. So the burning question that I have and everyone has is this IOE thing any faster? Once again, I think it boils down, based off everything that I've read online, it kind of boils down to the service center. I've heard that Texas is one of the faster ones, with Nebraska being one of the slower ones and California being kind of slow too. Again, we don't have a crystal ball, none of us, so we can only go off the historical stats that people have been providing for their own cases. Just, you know, regular couples like you and I have been self-reporting on Visa Journey, and obviously that's not the pool of everyone who's ever applied. So it's a small pool of information, and average times, I think at the Texas Service Center, at least right now in 2019, is they are, as of mid-December 2019, approving cases from July 2019. So that's a good 5 months between priority dates and Notice of Action 1 date and then getting the I-130 approved. So far with the IOE receipt numbers, aside from the pilot processing program, the fastest I've ever seen a case go from Notice of Action 1 to approval would be about 4 months without a listed expedite. So again, I think the averages are going to be 5 to 7 months based off everything that I've seen online so far. And again, it will depend on your service center. So why the IOE, the electronic processing? I've read that USCIS is making huge efforts to digitize more and be more contemporary, since, you know, paper filing and everything is pretty archaic at this point with the technology that we have. So USCIS is trying to catch up, and it's just that there's such a high volume of applications. So in a way, I kind of get it, even though it's so frustrating, but I get it. And I do think that it's important actually for us to understand that there is a system in place, and I actually will be linking below to an article to kind of understand the structure of USCIS, you know, the employees, where they're trained and stuff like that. So the stats of processing times start to make sense, and like what kind of problems they're up against, which is why our applications don't get, you know, approved within a month like we would want it. So this is just the situation for the time being and the beast that we have to deal with. I'm on this journey together with you, and I read that the I-130 spousal petition makes up more than 50% of all family-based immigration applications that USCIS sees per year. So it's just trying to modernize and digitize, and of course this electronic processing is just experiencing growing pains, and we're having to experience it with them. So I encourage you all to join visajourney.com, and then there's There's actually quite a bit of Facebook groups that you can join, and join the ones that correspond with your situation, whatever visa you're applying for. There's a lot of exchanging of information. Actually, I found the Facebook groups to be a lot more responsive these days. You know, join the community, get your questions answered, or answer other people's questions, just because, you know, we're all in it together. And then if you could please subscribe below. I get shy to ask about it, but subscribe below so that you can get further updates. And thank you guys all for watching. I will see you in the next video.